Hi, soul friends. It's Tannaz Hosseinpour, and welcome back to another short solo episode of the Minutes on Growth podcast. Today's episode begins with a question that I hear all the time. I don't know why I keep attracting emotionally unavailable people, or I always attract narcissists, or I keep attracting people who don't want commitment. You see the theme. I'm attracting a certain type of person. And while I completely understand why people might ask that question, I actually think there is a more empowering one to ask because the truth is, we cannot control who enters our lives. We are going to attract or simply encounter a wide variety of people throughout our lifetime. People with secure attachment, people with anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, people who are emotionally unavailable, people who are emotionally available, people who are intentional with doing their inner work, people who are still carrying a lot of unresolved pain that they're unaware of. We don't get to choose who crosses our path. I'm going to repeat that. We don't get to choose who crosses our path, but we do get to choose who we continue walking with. So perhaps the more empowering question isn't why do I keep attracting this type of person, but why do I keep entertaining them? Because that question shifts our attention from the external to the internal. And that's where change becomes possible. So, one of the biggest concepts we talk about in attachment theory is the concept of familiarity. Our nervous systems are drawn towards what feels familiar, not necessarily what feels healthy, but what feels familiar. So, if growing up, chaos was familiar, then calm can feel boring. If inconsistency was familiar, then consistency can actually feel uncomfortable. If you had to earn love growing up, then love that's freely given might feel suspicious. Our nervous systems often confuse, so our bodies often confuse familiarity with safety, even when that familiarity hurts us. And that's why we sometimes find ourselves repeatedly entertaining similar relationship dynamic, not because we want to choose pain, but because our nervous system recognizes the pattern as familiar. There's something that Dr. Gabor Mate says that has always stayed with me since hearing it the first time. And he talks about how, as children, we didn't have control over many of the experiences that shaped us. But as adults, we sometimes unconsciously recreate similar situations in an attempt to change the ending. So this time, it's going to look and feel different. This time, as an adult, I'm in control. Think about that for a moment. Maybe you're hoping that this emotionally unavailable person will finally choose you. Maybe this time someone will stay. Maybe this time someone will validate you. Maybe this time you will finally receive what you didn't receive back then. So the relationship isn't just about the person in front of you. Sometimes it's about the unfinished story behind you. Now, I want to introduce another perspective that I really appreciate from couples therapists, Terry Real, and he says, we all marry the next step in our psychological development. So he says, the famous statement of we all marry our unfinished business. He said, well, why don't we reframe that to we all marry the next step in our psychological development? And I love that reframe because instead of asking, what's wrong with me? It asks, what is this relationship inviting me to learn? Because every relationship shines a light on something. Maybe it's our boundaries, our communication, our attachment wounds, our capacity for intimacy, our fears, our patterns. Relationships become mirrors, not because they're here to complete us, but because they're here to reveal us. And this is where I love bringing in the IFS, internal family systems lens, into the therapy room. Because instead of asking, why am I doing this again? We become curious. Ooh, what part of me is showing up? Is it the part that's terrified of abandonment? Is it the part that believes love has to be earned? Is it the caretaker, the fixer, the people pleaser? The part that's afraid that if I set a boundary, I'm going to lose the relationship. When we shift from judgment to curiosity, everything changes because every part of us has developed for a reason. So the next time you notice yourself being pulled towards a relationship that doesn't feel healthy, I want you to pause. And instead of focusing only on the other person, I want you to turn inwards and ask yourself, ooh, what part of me is getting activated? What emotions are coming up? What familiar pattern is repeating itself? What story am I telling myself? When was the last time I remember feeling this way? This is a really powerful one. When was the last time I remember feeling this way? And then take it a step further. What are my earliest memories of this feeling? And then where do I notice it in my body? Because our bodies often remember long before our minds do. Maybe it's a tightness in your chest, a pit in your stomach, a lump in your throat. Those sensations carry information. So let us be curious enough to listen to them. Because one of the most empowering realizations we can have is this: not everyone who enters your life deserves access to your heart. Compatibility isn't just about chemistry, it's about emotional health, shared values, consistency, reciprocity, safety, emotional safety, physical safety, emotional security. And just because someone activates something familiar, it doesn't mean they're your person. Sometimes they're just your lesson. So the next time you catch yourself saying, why do I keep attracting these people? Try asking a different question. Who am I choosing to entertain? And what does that choice teach me about my inner world? I'm going to repeat that. Who am I choosing to entertain? And what does that choice teach me about my inner world? Because healing isn't about controlling who shows up. Healing is learning to recognize who aligns with the life you're creating and having the courage to let go of what simply repeats the past. And that means letting go sometimes of that which is familiar and allowing our nervous system to become familiar with the unfamiliar. Thank you so much for spending these few minutes with me, soul friends. Until next time, stay curious because curiosity, not judgment, is where healing begins. Thank you.